The topic is the life of R.H. Boyd and his times. And of course, we're talking to Dr. Bobby Lovett from Tennessee State University, who is the author of a book called How It Came to Be, dealing with the Boyd family. And of course, Dr. Lovett, you talked about the establishment of the National Baptist Publishing Board. And we also understand that R.H. Boyd was involved in a number of other entrepreneurial activities.
Right.
And why don't you sort of give us an overview in terms of some of the things that he was involved in?
R.H. Boyd arrived in Nashville in November of 1895 and established the National Baptist Publishing Board, which officially had its first quarter in January of 1896. The reason he did is because African Americans had to depend upon other companies to print their Sunday school literature. Company out of Philadelphia, which was the American Baptist Publication Society, and they also depended upon the Southern Baptist Convention, their publishing house. He was in Nashville. So he thought that African Americans should have their own images on that literature and have their own views about Christianity and Sunday school lessons. But he also started a lot of other companies, along with other African American leaders here in Nashville. In 1905, they founded Citizens Bank. And as few people know, Citizens Bank in Nashville, which has 3 branches in the city. Citizens Bank is the oldest continuous operating African American bank in the country. It goes back to 1905. But he also started the National Baptist Negro Dolls Club. They sold black dolls because they argued that African American children should have toys that reflect their image. And so he formed the Negro Doll Company, National Negro Doll Company.
You know, that's a curious thing, Dr. Lovett, because I think a lot of us think that only in the 1960s do we get these African images and whatever. But you're telling us R.H. Boyd and others were thinking
at the turn of the 20th century. They had the National Negro Doll Company, which you can see pictures of in the Nashville Globe. And he also started the National Baptist Church Supply Company, and that was to put African Americans to work building cabinets and church furniture. They sold organs and all sorts of things. And black craftsmen made a lot of these particular products here in Nashville. And they, along with others, formed the Union Transportation Company in the spring of 1905. And that company was formed because Tennessee passed a Jim Crow law in March of 1905 that said African Americans had to ride on the back of the streetcars. So they boycotted the Nashville streetcars and formed their own streetcar company. And they bought electric streetcars that from St. Louis and Tarrytown, New York. And they had 5 routes here in Nashville where blacks operated their own streetcars as a part of that particular boycott. And also, Boyd and his son formed the Globe Publishing Company, and the Globe newspaper was published from 1905 to January 1959, and it was the major weekly black newspaper here. It was started because you couldn't get any news in the Banner and the Tennessean and the local newspapers, and he argued that, of course, African Americans should be their own journalists, and they should control their own news as to what they wanted to consume and also what they wanted to distribute. And so he was an entrepreneur.
Yeah, he was an extraordinary
he was a businessman.
Yes,
he was a Renaissance man. Yes.
Became involved in almost all aspects of the African experience.
Right. He believed, you know, there's no separation between church and business. Churches should promote African American business, and African American businesses should be a part of the religious community as well. So he really was a man way ahead of his time.
Really was.
And that's what the book is about. And he also formed the National Baptist Sunday School Congress, which still operates. And this summer, let me see, it will be 103 years old. It's always held in June. And June is a traditional holiday for African Americans, especially down in Texas, where he came from, because that's when they celebrated Juneteenth.
Very good.
And June 25th was Emancipation Day, 1865, for a lot of black Texans. And so when they do the Sunday School Congress, they do it in June. Still 103 years later, they still do it. And it will be held down in Dallas this time, I believe.
I would imagine that's also probably the longest African American conference as
That
well.
is the longest Sunday School Congress in the country. That is African American. You know, the Chautauqua movement, you know, out of New York went back into the 1880s and so on. But this is the oldest one African American around, and it's still one of the most viable of the Sunday School Congresses for blacks that's held today. Thousands and tens of thousands attend.
And all of this was done in a period of really intense separation and segregation against the African.
It was done in the height of Jim Crow, Jim Crow legal racial segregation. And of course, African Americans were forced to create a world within a world because they were shut out of the larger part of American society. So he was one of those leaders who said, well, you got to create your own businesses, you got to create your own streetcar company, you got to create your own newspaper company, your own bank, you know, you got to, you know, do it yourself. So he was a man about self-help and self-promotion, you know. And it was a very dynamic time for African Americans because they came just a generation out of slavery and found themselves less dependent upon the larger society.
Isn't it? Yeah, that's right. Now, his son was R.H. Boyd. What was his son?
His son was Henry Allen Boyd.
Henry Allen Boyd.
He was born in Texas, and when his father died in 1922, he became head of the National Baptist Publishing Board and remained head until he passed away in 1959. Then he was succeeded by his nephew, T.B. Boyd Jr., and when he died in 1979, his son took over, T.B. Boyd III, who is currently the CEO and president of the R.H. Boyd Publishing Company.
And so this whole family, this is why you were concerned with the family, the Boyd family.
Yeah, a family that ran this corporation and still does.
Very good. And of course, Dr. Love, we're getting ready for this second commercial break, after which we'll come back. We'll have about 10 minutes, and that will allow you to sort of dissect the book in a real sense and tell people how they might be able to get a copy of this book, as well as some of the other books. I know that you mentioned the civil rights movement in Tennessee, and I think we had an opportunity to interview you
on this show.
And I think, from what I understand, that's a big seller.
Yeah, that book is doing very well.
Very good. I appreciate hearing that, too. And, of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.
You can make a difference in the fight against breast cancer by participating in the American Cancer Society Making Strides Against Breast Cancer 5-Mile Walk. This inspiring event will be held at LP Field on October 25th, 2008. Registration begins at 8 a.m. and the walk begins at 9 a.m. Join others in the community to help provide hope for all people facing breast cancer. To register or for more information, call 615-341-7323. Hope starts with you.
Murfreesboro, October the 9th till the 31st.
Did you say BLovett2?
At the fairgrounds. It's on BLovett2story.com.
BLovett2story.com, you say, in October?
I sure hope I don't see her, though.
I do, because I'm a witch tamer. BLovett2story.com. BLovett2story.com. Oh, something's got my nose.
Is that old witch?
Enjoy fall in downtown Franklin at the annual Pumpkin Fest, Saturday, October 25th on historic Main Street. Kids of all ages can enjoy trick-or-treating with merchants. The All Things Pumpkin area with pumpkin contest and eating all day. Plus hay rides, fun food, children's carnival, chili cook-off, and live entertainment. Pumpkin Fest is free and open 10 to 6. Call the Heritage Foundation for more information at 591-8500 or historicfranklin.com. We are on the move to end Alzheimer's. Come move with us Saturday, October 25th at Centennial Park for the 2008 Alzheimer's Association Memory Walk. Registration is at 9 a.m. and the walk starts at 10. Visit alz.org or call 292-4938 to start a team today and walk with a purpose to end Alzheimer's.
To learn more, visit drugfree.org.
Thank you and welcome back to this final segment of the show for today. The topic is the life and times of R.H. Boyd, and we're talking to the author of the book, How It Came to Be, Dr. Bobby Lovett from Tennessee State University, who has given us an overview of some of the activities that R.H. Boyd and his son have been involved in. And of course, Dr. Lovett will allow you to pick up at this particular point and to continue our conversation.
Well, this book, How It Came to Be, the Boyd family's contributions to African American religious publishing, really has a lot in it. It is a update of the last book we did, which was the Black Man's Dream, done in 1996 on the company. But this book, we cut it down and we added 100 photographs to it. So the book is also a good photographic history because we just fill it with photographs. And the R.H. Boyd Publishing Company, which is on Centennial Boulevard, it has a very good archives of old Globe newspapers and Sunday school material and so on. And so they really have retained a lot of their history. And I was able to work with them to put much of that history in this particular book. The most flamboyant of the Boyd leaders at the publishing board was Henry Allen Boyd.
Henry Allen Boyd.
And if you see him in the book, he's all dressed in white. He has white shoes on. He's always immaculately dressed. He's always traveling across the country by Pullman carpool trains and so on. And everybody across the country knew him, you know. But they also knew about the National Baptist Publishing Board in Nashville because it was important to black people's religious experiences across the country. The book also is a history of the Sunday School Sunday School Congress, which was started in 1905 in this very city at Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church, which is up on Albion Street, right behind Tennessee State University. That church was the home and still is the home of the Boyd family.
Very good.
And the Sunday School Publishing Board is, the Sunday School Congress was important in Black Baptist history because it was designed to do something about the young generation, and that is the future Black Baptists would be the young people. And so they had to be trained in the theology of the church and the doctrine of the church. And so the Sunday School Congress sets up every summer for a week. It sets up workshops and classes, and it focuses a lot upon, you know, the young people. And the whole idea is R.H. Boyd's original idea, and that is make sure you train your young people to be Christians. And, so they just don't happen to be Christians.
That's the title. You know, I've seen the title, the Sunday School Training Board.
That's right.
So that was
it's called the Sunday School Training Union and Sunday School Congress.
Very good.
Because it's training young people to be Baptists and training them to be Christians. You know, you have to bring a child up to understand what Christianity is, or Islam, or whatever, you know, Islam religion. They start teaching them to read the Quran and memorizing the Quran at a very early age. And that's what the Sunday School Congress does. It trains the future generation of black Christians, you know, in the tradition of their forefathers.
In other words, what the Boyd family has done is this is what the same thing that they were doing for other families as well.
That's right.
That kind of...
and now through the Sunday School Congress, they do it for tens of thousands every year. And that's the kind of material they publish. They publish, of course, Sunday school material for children, adults, and all ages, you know, of people. So it's a very important company in the social history of African Americans, the religious history of African Americans, as well as in African American culture. That company and that family are very critical to understanding African American history.
And so they played a crucial role in terms of the African experience. In a real sense, in terms of the American experience. These individuals
a national role. And the publishing company also had churches down in Panama. So it was international too, and they had impact on the World Sunday School Congress, which is held every now and then someplace over the world. The board and their company always had a representative at the World Sunday School Congress.
Very good. You know, Dr. Lovett, one of the descendants of this group is Dr. Dr. Boyd, Boyd the Third.
Right.
What about him and his legacy? I mean, him continuing the legacy of what?
Well, he has continued it, expanded that company, which is at 6717 Centennial Boulevard, out past Tennessee State University in a modern facility. They, of course, now publish a variety of religious materials and related materials. And Dr. T.B. Boyd III is also chairman of the committee to establish the African American Museum of art, culture, and history in Nashville. As you know, that museum is destined to be built at the corner of 8th Avenue and Jefferson Street. The land is already, you know, obtained, and the committee is getting ready to start hiring the curator, the chief head of that museum. And as you know, Dr. T.B. Boyd III is a graduate of Tennessee State University, and of course, he, is involved in many things in this particular city, very much like his great-grandfather, R.H. Boyd, was at that time.
As a matter of fact, I think I've heard it said that R.H. Boyd, one of the Boyds, played a significant role in the establishment of Tennessee State University.
That is correct, and that's Henry Allen Boyd, who is the son of R.H. Boyd. And on Tennessee State campus, we have Boyd Hall. And Henry Allen Boyd Hall is named in his honor because he chaired the committee of African Americans that convinced the state of Tennessee to place Tennessee State University in Davidson County, whereas we were competing with Memphis and Chattanooga, who also wanted to have the school there. But Henry Allen Boyd was able, with his committee, to convince the legislators and the State Board of Education to place Tennessee A&I State Normal School for Negroes here in Davidson County.
And so that's how the Boyd,
he's one of our founders.
Became connected with Tennessee State.
He's considered to be one of the 6 founders of Tennessee State.
And of course, you've done quite a bit of work, not only on that particular family at Tennessee State University. You've also done work on another very significant individual, and that's Avon Williams, in the earlier book that you did.
Yes, in the Civil Rights book, and I published an article on him in a scholarly magazine as well, because Avon Williams, I think, was the chief civil rights lawyer in the state of Tennessee. He adjudicated over 85 cases, more than anybody, and he was a fearless, courageous man. A lot of people didn't like him because he was fearless, courageous, and black.
Well, that's generally what happens when you're fearless, courageous, and black.
But you know, you really have to give him a lot of credit. And there were others like Alexander Luby, and there were many black civil rights attorneys down in Memphis, like A.W. Willis Jr. and others, who really are responsible for giving us the legal leadership we needed to get where we are today as African Americans.
You know, Dr. BLovett, over the last 2 minutes, would you say that, and this is what I've gathered from some of the things that you've said here, and well as some of the things that you've written, that Tennessee played really a crucial role in the development of African American culture, history, and the whole thing, because I think you talked about civil rights and the whole thing, that the state of Tennessee has played such a... Well, what would you contribute that role, that to, the ability to do that?
Well, African Americans, we have to remember, were 26% of Tennessee at first. After the war, Civil War, that is 1 out of every 4. We're only about 16% today. But African Americans from slavery until now were a very crucial part of every aspect of life in the state of Tennessee. So I've devoted my career basically to revealing what kind of roles they played, you know, in every aspect of Tennessee. You know, I'm not an art historian or historian of science and so on, but I try to bring up as many pieces and tidbits as I can, and hopefully other people will take some of those and then expand it into greater investigations or even books.
Very good. And of course, Dr. BLovett, I know that some of this information has been expanded, coming primarily from your activities, and you've done a real job in terms of making us aware of some of the things that people have become involved in. And I think that it's some of your activities dealing with the so-called freedom rides and all of that activity that we are now much more sensitive in a real sense
and
to what
aware
is
of.
going on. And of course, let me thank you, Dr. BLovett, over the last half minute for coming by and giving us that excellent information on the Boyd family. And I'm sure that that kind of information will further enlighten us, not only in terms of the publishing aspect, but in terms of all aspects that this family was involved in and has been involved in. And we want to thank you for that. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.